الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد أحييكم بتحية الإسلام تحية من أهل الجنة تحية من عند الله مباركة طيبة وهي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The theme of today's sermon is Al-Imaratu fi Mizan al-Islam. That is leadership in an Islamic perspective. How does Islam view leadership? And what is the commandment given to us by Allah Ta'ala in the Quran? Also, what is also the commandment given to us by the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? That is what the Khutbah entails. And first of all, I appreciate Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for extending our soul to witness a day like this blessed day, the day of Jum'ah. Alhamdulillah for that. After I appreciate Allah, also blessing and salutation upon our noble Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his entire household, his companions, and all those that are struggling until the day of resurrection. O you the believers, be conscious of Allah, because this consciousness is the commandment given to those before us and as well us also. As Allah mentioned, that وَلَقَدْ وَصَّيْنَا الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَإِيَّاكُمْ أَنِ اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. I have given the commandment to the people of the book before you, and you, the commandment is for you to be conscious of Allah. Regarding this topic, Allah mentioned in the Quran that, O you who believe, obey Allah and obey the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, obey the Messenger, and also obey the commandment, or obey those on the position of authority. And Allah also mentioned in another surah that indeed Allah is commanding you to render back trust to those whom they are due. And whenever you are establishing judgment among people, you should establish it with justice. And that is an admonishment from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Now we come back to the topic. Regarding these two verses I just recited and translated based on the little knowledge granted me by Allah Ta'ala, it is an indication that the leaders have an obligation to discharge. Also the followers also. Meaning the leaders have rights on their followers, the followers also have rights on their leaders. When we come back to the first ayah, that Allah is mentioning that, O you who believe, that means Allah is giving everyone living on the face of the earth to obey Allah. Every one of us must obey Allah, both the leaders and those and the followers, both the rulers and the followers. Allah is commanding all of us to obey Him, obey the rulings of the Quran. And He also further by commanding that you should also obey the Messenger, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, meaning by obeying the teachings, the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We must not deviate from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he also commanded us that we should also obey the instructions given to us by those on the position of authority. Disobeying them is exactly as the same as disobeying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, also as disobeying Allah Ta'ala. Because whenever you disobey your leader, you should know that the Prophet ﷺ said that whoever disobeys his leader, that person has disobeyed him. And whoever disobeyed him has disobeyed Allah Ta'ala. For that, we must obey the commandment given to us by our leaders, provided it's not at the expense of obeying Allah Ta'ala. Provided they are not giving us the command to disobey Allah. Though their command does not go contrary to the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ in that aspect, if we disobey them, we disobey the Prophet ﷺ. Any commandment, even we like that their commandment or we don't like them, is contrary to our own inclination. As long as their commandment does not go contrary to the Quran and the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, we must obey them. That is why in one of the Hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that whoever obeyed me has obeyed Allah, and whoever disobeyed me has disobeyed Allah, and whoever obeyed the leader has obeyed me, and whoever disobeyed those on the position of authority has also disobeyed me. And the Prophet ﷺ also mentioned, also in an hadith narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar, that it is legislated on every one of us, both male and female Muslims. It is legislated on us to listen to our rulers, to listen to our leader, to also obey them in their commandment with what we like or we dislike. Provided it doesn't go contrary to the Quran and the Hadith, we must obey them. Except if their commandment is contrary to the Quran and the Hadith, or they are commanding us to disobey Allah clearly, then at that point there is no listening to them, also there is no obedience, because لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الله. There is no obedience to those or to the creation at the expense of obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can obey human being and disobey Allah. That is regarding to that. Also, one of the hadith also hadith Wa'il ibn Hujr, that mother Salama ibn Yazid al-Ju'fi asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, "Oh, you the Prophet, it is regarding to the rights that our leaders has on the on we, which is that is we the followers. That, oh, you the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what do you see? What is your what is your verdict regarding to someone or leaders who are appointed, leaders whom are appointed on us, those that we elected or those that are choose to be our leaders? What is your rulings regarding them? If they ask us for their own right on us and they are depriving us our own right on them, what do you command us to do? The Prophet ﷺ turned away from Salama ibn Yazid. He still repeated that same question. The Prophet ﷺ turned away from him. He repeated it twice or thrice, 3 times. فَجَذَبَهُ الْأَشْعَثُ بْنُ قَيْسٍ. Al-Ash'ath ibn Qais draw him closer or give him a signal to stop repeating that same question that the Prophet ﷺ refused to give him response to that. Then the Prophet ﷺ made this statement that mother is married, that should listen to them, listen to the leaders and obey them, those whom Allah selected, or those whom we or majority of people elected to be our leaders. We must listen to them, we must obey them, and again that they are responsible for their own obligation, and you also, the followers, you are also responsible for your own obligation. It is left for them to carry out the law of Allah, but it is legislated upon you for you to obey them. Because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that mother, the best among my ummah, or the best among the leaders, are those whom you love, they also love you. And you make supplication for them, they also make supplication for you. For you. And again, the worst of your leaders are those who hate you, or who dislike, are those who dislike you. You also dislike them. You curse them, they also curse you. Then this Sahaba, Auf ibn Malik, now said that, that we now said, oh, you the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in this aspect, when situation warrant like this, shouldn't we overthrow them? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that no, as long as they are establishing prayer, they are allowing you to establish prayer. They are establishing prayer among you, with you. And la ma aqamu fikum salah. Then the Prophet ﷺ further mentioned that whoever a leader is appointed on him, then and the person now realized that that leader is disobeying Allah, or he's doing his act which is contrary to Allah's command, then what you should do, they should condemn the leader's act, but you should not withdraw from obeying that particular leader. That is regarding to the rights that the leaders have on us. We must obey them. We must make supplication for them. We must give them a helping hand in order for them to achieve their aims. If that aims is positive, a positive aims, or if their aims does not go contrary to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then comes to the rights that also the followers have on their leader. Allah mentioned in the Quran that Allah is commanding you, most especially the leaders, that mother and to adul amanat ila ahliha, that you should render that trust to those that they are due. For Allah to choose you in a position, for Allah to place you in an office, you should know that that is an amana, that is a trust. You are going to be accountable for it on the day of resurrection. Allah is commanding you to render that trust which you are entrusted to. And again, when you are establishing judgment among people, don't be discriminate. And tahkumu bil adl. You should establish that judgment with justice. That is Allah's commandment for us. Meaning, the leaders have right on us. We also have right on our leaders for them to also execute. That is why to be placed in a position of authority, or to seek position of authority, is not something, or to handle or discharging the position of authority which you are placed is not something easy. It's something which you are supposed to be the one who, when it comes to you that they want to appoint you to an office, you should be saying, Kai, I don't think I can do. Because it is an amana, and you are going to be accountable for it on the day of resurrection. And it also serves as a destruction also. One of the hadith that Imam also wrote in his Khutbah, hadith Ka'b ibn Malik al-Ansari. Ka'b ibn Malik al-Ansari said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that ما ذئبان جائعان أرسلا في الغنم بأفسد لها من حرص المرء على المال والشرف لدينه. That two hungry wolves, wolves, two hungry wolves that are sent to the midst of a flock of sheep. The destruction that those two wolves will cause to those animals is not up to the destruction that someone who is keen to position of authority, who is aspiring for the position of authority, title, status, or reputation, and as well, he is being greedy for wealth. The destruction those two wolves will cause to those animals is not up to the destruction that someone who is greedy for wealth or keen to position of authority will cause to his religion. We can see, as a result of seeking or aspiring for a position of authority, some will not mind if other people will be killed, or if they will involve themselves in the peak of an offense, which is shirk. For someone to aspire for a position of authority, some people don't mind. They will want to follow anyway, whatever, how their own aims is for them to just achieve or to be placed in that particular office, even if it's at the expense of disobeying Allah. They won't mind. They will make sure they follow all, by all means, they must get into this position. They are just eager. It's not, that is why the scholars say that, you see, being king or aspiring or desirable for a leader, for a position of authority, is worse than the wealth itself. What is the reason behind making the statement? Is because there are some people that are aspiring. Majority of people aspiring for this position of authority, not because they are poor, but because of the status. They want to be known by people. They want to be recognized by a particular title, just that reputation. That is what is pushing them, seeking for the position of authority, which the Prophet ﷺ said, "Mada innakum latahrisuna ala al-imara wa satakunu nadamatan yawm al-qiyamah." That you will be killed to position of authority, and you forgot that it's going to be a kind of regret for you on the day of resurrection if you refuse to discharge that duty for the sake of Allah or serving humanity. There is regret regarding to that. That is why the position of authority is worse than greediness to wealth. That's why I see a lot of people paying in order for them to get those positions. And that money you are paying to get that mandate, you should know that that one itself is bribery. Because, and it's something that the Prophet ﷺ has caused. لَعَنَ اللَّهُ الرَّاشِي وَالْمُرْتَشِي. The Prophet ﷺ have caused those that are bribing and those that are accepting bribery and those that are also bribing. Both these two, the Prophet ﷺ have caused them, and the hadith is authentic. You can see how dangerous it is for someone to be keen to a position of authority. That he want to be the one to be in a position of authority. And this mandate, this position of authority, comes with a lot of harm, a lot of destruction, humiliation here and there. Some people, when they are aspiring for a position of authority, instead of them to submit, to attribute to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to seek help from Allah, they seek help from other people, humiliating themselves. Someone whom you know you are more than, you go and sit with the person, breaking yourself down because you know your mind is telling you that without that person, I won't be in that position. Not without Allah again. Now you take the position of Allah, servitude to Allah, the portion of servitude to Allah to that person, and which is shirk itself. If that is what he's aspiring for, he was able to achieve it, then he will try by all means to do something that will please the person, even if it will not please Allah and the masses. That is why the Prophet ﷺ is addressing Abdul Rahman ibn Samura when Abdul Rahman ibn Samura demanded for a position of authority, for him to be placed to an office. The Prophet ﷺ addressed him, told him that لا تسأل الإمارة لا تسأل عن الإمارة. Do not aspire for a position of authority, because if you are aspiring, you are asking for. If you are given that position of authority, based on your aspiration, based on your request, based on your demand, you will be left with it for you to control your affairs by yourself without Allah giving you the support. Can you see? From the time you are left for you to decide by yourself, you are already on the way of destruction. Because if Allah is not in support of what you are doing, that you make a lot of mistakes. What you think will be better will not be better, will now be at people's detriment. And the Prophet ﷺ also addressed him that if you are given not by you being elected, but by appointment, you are being appointed to a position, you are being appointed to a position which you don't even demand for that. Just that you are being appointed. You are given that position to the extent you yourself in your mind, you don't like it. But you are being forced into it because they look at you as the most qualified person. You are the one who is merit to that position, and you accept it based on that merit. Then Allah, the Prophet ﷺ now say that without you demanding for it, then Allah will, you should accept it and Allah will support you in terms of that. Can you see? The Prophet ﷺ depriving or telling Abdul Rahman ibn Samura, depriving him from a position because he observed, he looked at it that position of authority is a destruction to most of people. Because the aims of majority of us is just how we can accumulate or amass the wealth of public, of the people, without thinking that regarding to this, Allah is going to ask us on the day of resurrection. And we should also understand that, you see, the matters of regarding to this position of authority is more severe on the day of resurrection. It is more severe on the day of resurrection on those who refuse to discharge their duties out of sincerity and not serving humanity. In terms of matter, justice among people, when you are being you demonstrate injustice, is going to be counted against on the day of resurrection. And in terms of fairness to people, and in terms of giving precedence to Allah's command over other people's precedence. All these things is something we have to take note of them, and we should know, as I told you, that there are right of the followers on our leaders. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned in a hadith of Ma'qal ibn Yasar. He mentioned that ما من عبد ماذا يسترعيه الله رعية يموت يوم يموت وهو غاش لرعيته إلا حرم الله عليه الجنة. That anyone who is placed on a position of authority to rule over the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, and the person died, he gave up, while he gave up his life while abusing that particular office or not being sincere on the mandate. Allah, the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah will deprive him entering Al-Jannah on the day of resurrection. And again, this supplication, Aisha said that I heard the Prophet ﷺ making this supplication. For that, those that are on the position of authority, those that Allah choose to be our leader, they should be careful. Make sure you discharge your duty. Not you are doing that to please Allah and to also serve humanity, not to please you, to please others. You aspire for this position with an intention, seeking for the reward of Allah out of Iman, and one seeking reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Listen to what the Aisha said, that she had the Prophet ﷺ making this supplication in her own room, that, oh Allah, whoever is choose to rule over my ummah, and the person rule them and or make life miserable to them, oh Allah, make it miserable to him too, in this world and on the day of on the day of resurrection. And oh Allah, whoever is choose to rule over my ummah and he make life easy for them, oh Allah, make it easy for them, for that person too also on the day of resurrection. For that, we should be conscious of Allah in discharging our amana, because that is an amana which we will be accountable for on the day of resurrection. Then, my dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, whoever is elected to lead people, and he deserves that position of authority, and discharge his duty out of sincerity, trying his best in order for him to achieve his aim. avoiding as much corruption as much harm as possible, avoiding corruption or minimizing corruption. He tried his best. Allah will give him reward for the position, for that position of authority, and Allah will also reward him for that, for his intention, even if he was unable to achieve his aims or his mandate 100%. Allah will give him reward for that. Whatever, we should be careful and seek support of Allah. We should seek help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it's Allah that controls the affairs of his servants in this world and on the day of resurrection. And Allah is the one to support him in the most perfect way. For that, anything we are doing, we attribute it to Allah. You are on that position, not because you are the only one who deserves that, but Allah granted you that as an amana. For that, try to discharge your amana out of sincerity and seeking for the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah be in support on those whom Allah choose to be our leaders. And may Allah grant us the ability to also obey them, even if their commandment pleases or displeases us. Subhanahu wa ta'ala.